Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and for the last week I've been driving the 2025 Jeep Wagoneer S. Below me are two electric motors powering this all-electric Jeep. Now, I am super excited to be making this video here today because I've actually spent the week driving the Wagoneer S. And although I've reviewed it before, that was just a quick dealership review. I borrowed it for an hour, gave it back, did a couple miles, and that was it. This, I've actually spent some time living with it, and so I'm excited to share with you some of the upsides, as well as, of course, some of the downsides of living with the all-new Wagoneer S. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that all-electric drivetrain. Well, that is exclusive here for the Wagoneer S. Now, we're going to be talking about naming quite a bit later on in the video, but this is currently Jeep's only all-EV product. It has a 100 kilowatt-hour battery and can go 294 miles per charge, although I've been getting readings slightly below that. I'm about at 74% with 200 miles to go. However, this is the launch edition of the Wagoneer S, so this gets 600 horsepower, where the base model gets 500 horsepower. If you had a time machine and went back to 1981 and said, hey, the base model of a Jeep is going to have 500 horsepower and the upgrade will have 600, they would have thought you were an alien from outer space. That is an incredible number, and honestly, the driving experience is pretty good. I put in a sport mode at a stoplight and floored it, and I actually smoked the tires. I have never smoked the tires in a press vehicle, and yet there was actually billowing smoke and burnt rubber smell from launching this vehicle. This thing does not mess around, and it is absolutely lovely. The steering is a little bit light for my taste. However, the ride quality is nice, and it's an enjoyable driving experience, and it is all-wheel drive. So how does it feel to drive the Jeep Wagoneer S? It's nice. As a daily driver, it's comfortable, it's nice, it's pretty spacious, and sits happily on the road, but then again, you do have 600 horsepower on tap, which is very nice to feel. Visibility is also pretty good. No complaints from this side of the pond, so I appreciate that. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a completely digital gauge cluster. I do like how this is laid out. I like the sort of minimalistic look where it gives me all my information, but it's not overwhelming at a glance like some other products are. On the steering wheel, off to left, we do have our selectors for that gauge cluster screen, as well as our voice commands and phone options. And off to the right, we have our adaptive cruise control. To the left of the steering wheel, we do have a climate vent with this big open piece of plastic. And then we have our Frunk release, headlight switch, gauge dimmer switch, and power parking brake down below. Moving out of the door, we do have 2 levels of memory seats, power mirrors, and power windows, along with power locks. Moving into the center, we get our hazard switch with 2 more climate vents, and then our infotainment system. I think the infotainment system is relatively easy to use. However, if you do have polarized sunglasses, it will make the infotainment look broken. It's not actually broken. We do have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and we do have some electric vehicle pages that we can swipe through, which of course I'm a big fan of. And off to the right, the passenger also has their own screen for their own usage, HDMI, cameras, things like that. We do have a 360 camera and several different camera options, which have been absolutely fantastic, trying to back this into my narrow driveway. And then down below, we do have some buttons for the camera, lane keep assist and traction control off, parking assist, parking sensors on and off, and our screen on and off. Down below, we do have an extendable screen. So you can push this up out of the way and just keep a very minimalist climate control buttons available for dual zone climate and things like that. But then you can actually hit it and lower it, and you get a lot more options, like for your massage seats, as well as some more climate control options for fine tuning. But if you get that screen up out of the way, you do have two USB-Cs and an HDMI input. That HDMI input is for the passenger screen. And then moving to the center console, off to the left, we have the shifter as well as the power button up at the top and drive modes down below. Again, sport mode will turn traction control off, and that is how I was able to smoke those tires. And off to the right, we have cup holders, so we will do a big friggin' bottle test. And this vehicle and its platform sibling, the Dodge Charger, both pass the big friggin' bottle test. Then we do get our auto holding brake and hill descent control, a wireless charger, and the center console, and you also get a 12-volt outlet down there. The seats are comfortable, they are heated, ventilated, power, memory, and massaging, so anything you could really want out of a seat, the Jeep Wagoneer S is able to give you. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2025 Jeep Wagoneer S, and a couple of things to note. First of all, we do have heated and ventilated back seats. Ventilated back seats, very, very hard to find in vehicles, especially under $100,000. Toyota Sequoia will also do it, but the Wagoneer S does it as well. We have two USB-C chargers and a wall outlet. This is part of the convenience package, which is about a $2,000 option. But we also get climate control vents, and we do get a center console with two cup holders in it. This is also a pretty nice place to be. I enjoy sitting back here. I fit. I'm 5'11", not a small guy. My knees are not hitting the seat in front of me. My head's not hitting the ceiling, and I get to enjoy the giant glass roof. So it's a pretty nice place to be from back here. Let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. Right around the back of the Wagoneer S, double click it here on the key fob, and it does have a power operated tailgate. Once we are around the back here, plenty of space. Really, really love to see that. We do have our little fireman's cutoff. That is very important to know. We have our button to close the tailgate itself, and we do get a 12-volt outlet off to the right. We can come under here as well. Established 1963 for the Wagoneer name. Really like to see that. Love that little Easter egg touch. But we can pull this up, and we get pretty decent amount of storage back here considering that this is an EV. So very, very nice to see all of that. There you go. That is the trunk space of the Wagoneer S. I have to say, pretty on brand and pretty on par with other things in its class. So it seems about 50% of EVs on the market actually do have a frunk, and the Wagoneer S is one of them. You pop it from inside, and you do get some storage up under the hood. Is this a massive amount of storage? No, but you could keep your charging cables in here, some necessities, maybe a blanket for a cold night. You can keep that all up here, which is nice to have because this is a huge perk of electric vehicles over ICE vehicles, and I feel like when EVs don't have a frunk, it's a little bit of a miss. So very nice to see that under the hood of the Wagoneer S. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I actually think that the Wagoneer S is relatively handsome. I think it's styled well enough, you know, I think it's pretty enough. I don't think it's the biggest showstopper I've ever seen, but I do love the blue color, and I think overall it is a pretty successfully looking automobile, and I'd be happy to see it in my driveway. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the Wagoneer S now for a week? Here's the bottom line. I like this car. I like driving it. It's fun. It's fast. The Macintosh sound system is wonderful. It has the passenger screen so my girlfriend can be entertained on long drives. The range is good enough. You know, 300 miles is kind of my benchmark, and it's only 6 short of that, so I consider that a win. I like it. I do. I think Jeep has fumbled this car in terms of marketing. I said it in my last video, and I'll say it again in this one. I really truly believe that this shouldn't have been a Jeep product, and this should have been the Chrysler Aspen. The Chrysler Aspen in the mid-2000s was their version of the Durango. It was a luxury version of the Durango. And I haven't reviewed one. I still want to review one really bad, but they don't really exist anymore. Especially if I could find a hybrid, but that's another story. Because nothing in here screams Jeep to me. I don't think that Jeep should really be going upscale. That's why the full-size Wagoneer isn't selling so well. People don't want to pay over $100,000 for the Jeep name. Jeep has always meant rugged, military-style off-road vehicles. That's why the Wrangler is so good. That's why the Gladiator is so good. And they're able to sell even their smaller SUVs, like the upcoming 26 Cherokee. It has that beefy, brawny look to it, while being a little bit more civilized and, of course, a hybrid. When you think Jeep, you don't think leather massaging seats. When you think Jeep, you don't think giant price tag. tag. When you think Jeep, you don't think premium, you think utility. And so driving this doesn't feel or operate like a Jeep product. I would never take this off-road, and currently there's not even an off-road trim level available. I can't get all-terrains from the factory on this, nor would I really want to. So Jeep should have done one of two things: either rebranded it to the Chrysler Aspen and revamped the Chrysler brand, which only currently makes one vehicle, or they should have named this the Jeep SRT E? You know, SRT Electric? I don't know. Because it is so dang fast and it's good to drive. This is actually faster than the old SRT8 Cherokees. This is faster than that. And so they should have leaned into that. They should have done crazy aero body kits, a big dumb wing on the back, and really leaned into that 600 horsepower. I mean, Chevy across the table with their EV Blazer is bragging about 615 horsepower. This could have been a Blazer EV SS competitor, and yet it's not. It's really stuck in limbo. So why would Jeep do this? Well, there's two reasons why Jeep did this. First of all, the Jeep brand is the strongest brand under the Stellantis umbrella at the moment. That's just the case. Everyone knows what a Jeep is. You think of a Jeep, you know the Jeep. Your uncle had a Jeep, your cousin owns a Jeep. It is a very, very strong brand, and some would argue the main bargaining chip that Stellantis has under their umbrella. So it makes sense that they would put a new, somewhat experimental vehicle under their best-selling brand. But then why would they call it Wagoneer S? Why wouldn't they incorporate a new name? Why wouldn't they make this the Jeep Apache or the Cherokee E? Well, again, that brand recognition. Getting a new name to be a household name is a hard task to do, and Wagoneer is pretty much a household name. Now, I think this is going to hurt the Wagoneer S in the long run, because it's already confusing that there's another vehicle called the Wagoneer and the Wagoneer L. That's a completely separate vehicle and shares nothing with this vehicle. But to get it off the ground, it's the same thing that Ford did with the Mustang Mach-E. They had to use something familiar to sort of shoehorn their new product into the homes across America. And while I don't think it was the right decision, that's the decision that Jeep made. And so, I like driving it. I enjoy this experience. I just don't feel like this is a very Jeep experience. And so we'll see what the future holds for the Wagoneer S. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Stellantis for letting me borrow their Jeep Wagoneer S for the last week. Huge thank you to G. Schmitz for facilitating the cleaning and delivery of this vehicle. And of course, the Midwest Automotive Media Association. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.